I'm sorry. Ya Allah, assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Alrighty. So hopefully I'm gonna probably repeat the example that I did last time from page 226 just to make your guys' life a bit easy. Now part of the problem, obviously, learning the hukum is one thing, learning to teach it is another. The problem is when you're speaking to a teacher in Arabic and they're speaking back, Arabic is quite dense. So the instructions tend to be communicated in half the time more efficiently. So I think it's probably good to talk about an example. So I'm just going to recap what I already said to you, Brother Musa. So here, the example we talked about, if I'm correct, last week was before we started the page that we're on, we were talking about imshu and why you can't say it as umshu, you say it as imshu. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah, imshu.
Yeah. So obviously, we said for starting with Hamzat al-Wasl, we weren't meant to get sidetracked, jump all the way to page 226. I'm doing this intentionally, and then we're going to go back and we're going to revise it later. To cut a long story short, general rule, you look at the word with Hamzat al-Wasl, like urkud, ud'u, ujituthat. So what happens here is that if the word, you look at the third letter, if it's a fatha or kasra, then you start with the kasra, like irkab, for example. But here, if it's a dhamma, then hamzat al-wasl is a dhamma. Now, the thing that confuses a lot of people is the exception. For naturally born Arabs or really experienced people in Arabic, they tend to memorize this thing because it's pretty straightforward. Like the word imshi, for example, imshu. Now, when you think about it, this violates the rule. And like I said, we teach the general rule and then we still teach the exception to the rule. And the exception to this is usually taught outside of class. Now, what happens is when you look at the root word of imshu, because wow, alif, when you add u at the end with wow al jama'ah, it's talking to a group. So what happens if you have the word imshi and you add wow and alif, as we said, because of sarf, and sarf is not part of this curriculum, but goes to show again the importance of learning Arabic. Under the qawaneen of sarf, it's hard to actually just add a wow alif at the end and read it as imshiu. So to cater for ease of facilitation of pronunciation, we say imshu and we put a dhamma on the sheen because dhamma, as we said, closely resembles the letter of wow. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, yeah, alhamdulillah.
So think of it this way. Technically speaking, a dhamma, fatha dhamma kasra, a dhamma, you could think of it as a third of a wow. A kasra is a third of a ya. Because if you drag it out, woo, wa, it sounds like a wow. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's the principle behind it. So from a sarf perspective, mashallah, Arabic isn't just about getting the rules of grammar, how which haraka goes where. It also looks at your physical anatomy with regards to pronunciation and tries to order words in such a way so that it is easier for you to actually pronounce the word. That's mashallah how elegant it is. So it sounds pleasing, it feels pleasing, and it's rich and dense in meaning. And you get that just from the Tajweed class. We haven't even started Arabic grammar, alfiyat and Malik and all this stuff. You can imagine how deep you can get into this, if you see what I mean. So so what we do in this case, as a result, the root word is imshi. So people say, as a result, we say imshu. I am aware of other qira'at, and I'm speaking here about khalaf specifically. Obviously, sometimes they'll do hamzat al-wasl and they'll do a dhamma. And this is where the difference of opinion comes in. Because some people, they'll say, hang on, you told us this rule. We agreed from the start, from day one, if a wow dhamma presents itself, I'll always say it with a dhamma. So people say, okay, I'm taking at face value. So as a result, you have a different style of recitation. Other people say, hang on, we have specifically said that we look at the root word. The root word doesn't change. For them, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like, let's just say, for example, I'm an Arab guy at the end of the day. I can dress up as American or European as I want to be, but I always look like an Arab, even with a NBA shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, some people go, "Look, I'm looking at your shirt. This guy speaks English. He's wearing, let's just say a European outfit. At the end of the day, this is it." Other people say, "Hang on, this guy's got raised with us. He's with us. We should treat him this way." And that's where you have the difference of opinion between, subhanAllah, the ulama and the Qur'an as it happened. So that's what they mean about the dhamma of the third letter is incidental. That's what the word incidental means. Because it's a coincidence based on the incidents. I saw it this way. This is how I saw the word. Other people say, "Nah, I'm just going with the root word," and that's why it can be really difficult. What I tell people at the end of the day, don't stress about it too much. This is the closest thing you have to this is الوقف العرض السكون مد العرض السكون إياك نعبد اللهم صل على محمد نستعين yeah ولا الضالين. So when you look at it, obviously you don't say ضالين. Obviously you've got different options. You can say extend it out by 2 harakat, 4 harakat, and 6 harakat, because we said at the end of the day, given the incident that you are dealing with right now, the incident is the stopping. Because the incident presents itself, you have options. You have a different set of rules. But if you happen to carry on normally, you'll say, وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ, or whatever your qira'ah says. So I hope that kind of summarizes what we said last week.
Beautifully, Jazakallah khair.
No, Jazakallah khair, alhamdulillah. Allah Kareem. I think now we are covering. So we're not going to repeat page 215, 215. You're going to have a whole lot of fun doing that later on, inshallah. We're going to talk now about Roman Ishmael. So feel free to correct me or stop me whenever. So actually, I'll get you to read and just stop whenever you feel comfortable, and we'll do a QA.
Okay, khair inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rom and Ishmam. Ar-Rom, it is to lower the voice when stopping at a dhamma or a kasra so that most of their sound disappears. As in, Nasta'een, Ar-Rahim, Allah.
So here, this is different. So when I say nasta'een, what do you hear?
For the noon,
Mm-hmm.
as-sukun.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, that's what normally sounds like.
Right, okay.
Al-waqf bil-rawm, if you specifically stop on the rawm, this might not make sense to you, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It might be really difficult. What people say to us, especially our teachers at an advanced level, will say, if you're not going to execute this, then this is actually one of those good to know things. Because it might not help you now, but you'll probably might use it maybe for another qira'ah. Because as you know, we did this with we did the Rome, because Rome is compulsory for Hafs in one situation, which is ما لك لا تأمن على يوسف. But other qira'at, it's more obvious. So I'll give you an example. You got Shi'a, you're saying Shi'a. There's Shi'a and Shi'a. Can you hear the difference?
Yep.
So first scene is straight up in Hafs. Scene Safia, pure scene. This one, when I say Shi'a, I'm actually using Islam to say the scene. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
But that's not Hafs. But as you can see, we teach this because, mashallah, when you teach Qur'an, you teach the foundation of the Qur'an, which is part of the coursework. And then you teach the unique words exclusive to the Qur'an. That's what we mean by usul and farsh. So although this is taught in the asl, which is the foundation, it might be more convenient for another recitation. So it's, so as a result, because you don't see it a lot in Hafs, we only have it in one word, which is in Surah Yusuf, as we said. The only other time it happens is in stopping. So because of our style of recitation, most people, to make their life a bit easy, they say, look, I don't want to stop on Rome or Ishmam. I'll either do wasl al-jami', as we said, remember what we said in the first lesson? إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط. with a
Yep.
sharp dhamma, which is a lot easier. It flows and it goes really well with had speed, the fastest speed that we said for tarawih or qiyam. You know, for stopping, people sometimes, rather than say doing Rome, and I have to say this, and this is being specifically, if I'm correct, this is from my limited experience of understanding Shatibiyyah. Imam himself said it's a difficult skill to do because technically you're trying to produce a third of a harakah. That's why it's really difficult. And not all the master Qur'an can achieve this. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Alhamdulillah. I do have a question when you're ready, Sheikh.
تفضل.
So for Rome, for Hafs, we have just one incident, but here when he's put the examples, Nasta'een ar-Rahim, Allah, how is he expecting us to read that?
Well, here, I mean, let's just talk about the examples. Now, the good thing about Rome and Ishmam and stopping is optional for Hafs, as far as I'm concerned. So I'll try to give an example of a third of a harakah. So you got nasta'inu, nu. That's what the Dhamma sounds like. If you say with a third of harakah, it's like nasta'inu. You hear the difference?
Yeah, yep, alhamdulillah.
So you got nasta'inu, dina, nasta'inu. And then I'll say it with, well, nasta'inu. It's a lot lower volume and it's shorter. Nasta'inu. You see what I mean?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And how do we know when a Rome? Is it by memorization or is there something in the script that lets you know it's a Rome?
Well, it's basically a form of stopping. So what happens with normal stopping, or let's just say classical Arabic stopping, you stop bil-iskan. You make a sukoon, right?
I understand. Yeah, okay. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you.
So with this one, you stop with taking the haraka into account. And basically, if it's fatha, if it's dhamma or kasra, you do wrong. That's what it's called when you read it at the third of a haraka. Like, for example, you got, I'll do it quickly, inshallah. Ar-Rahimu is pronounced Ar-Rahimu. You see what I mean? A bit softer. I'm still not good at it, but I'm just showing it. So you got Allahu is Allahu. Does that make sense?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair.
Same thing with the other one. I'll do the kasra before I get you to the next one. Malik yawmiddini is Malik yawmiddini. Maliki is Maliki. Maliki. You see what I mean? So it has to be shorter and softer. That's why it's a bit difficult. You try and do two things at once.
Gotcha.
Al-Fili is Al-Fili. And Fili. Not Fili. Fili. And it's a bit shorter. I could do with getting it a bit shorter. This skill would help you with other qira'at. Because there's another hukum called ikhtilas, but that gets covered outside of Hafs. Any questions so far, no?
No, jazakallah khair.
Well, just confirming, you might have said it. I wasn't listening. When you say a Rome, so
Yes.
is the specific meaning to that word?
That's actually a good point. I haven't really looked up al-asl in terms of like, what's the word called? Astaghfirullah azim. Trying to think of the English word. You got the literal translation, you got the context.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of it at this stage.
So currently we
It's
only
like-
have the interpretation that the rule of Rome means to lower the voice when stopping on a dhamma kasra. So that is the the contextual meaning of it, right? So this is
Yes.
the hukam of Rome means this, but why
Yeah.
is this hukam called as Rome? We're not sure about that, right?
Actually, it's a good point. I mean, I can try to look up. This is the meaning of the word. Oh, I've got Arabic grammar thing that I'm looking at the
No,
moment.
it's okay. I mean, it can be for next time, but inshallah, just a question.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah, so we'll read the next one, Brother Musa, while I'm looking it up.
So a rule or qa'ida is when stopping with Rome on a letter with a tanween of Dhamma or a tanween of Kasra, we admit the tanween and stop with part of the Dhamma at the letter with Dhamma and with part of the Kasra at the letter with Kasra. As in
Yeah.
Hakim,
So, yep.
Hakim.
Yep. Try to maybe lower the volume a bit more.
Okay. Azimun, Azimu,
Yes.
Azimu.
Yep.
كصيب, كصيب.
Yep.
حاسد, حاسد.
Yep. That's basically it. So that's the general way of trying to do it. We'll do the next one.
So a rule of Rome is that of joining of wasl. So a one, accordingly, the presented sukoon is not lengthened, it is shortened as when joining. And two, the letter stopped upon is treated as it is when joining, regarding making it heavy or light. As in في ليلة القدر, the light, the ra would be light when joining.
Yes.
And the wasl. And then the Rome when starting, في ليلة القدر, and when stopping it is also light. But with stopping with sukoon, في ليلة القدر is heavy.
Yeah. So if you read it light, في ليلة القدر وما قدر وما. If you stop on it, ليلة القدر. So it doesn't help. There's a couple next to it, but yeah, you said it correctly. Yeah. So does that make sense? Basically, it's the same thing with the incidental thing. If you carry on, then that's normal because originally it's a kasra. But if you stop, incidentally, it becomes a sukoon. So I hope that clarifies it.
Yes, jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah. And just letting you guys know, Rome specifically here is talking, it's different from ikhtilas. Ikhtilas basically is when you're, let's just say, this is homework now, it's really in my head. Basically, ikhtilas is saying something at a third of a haraka. And that's a different hukum. So in Shu'bah, you read it as, إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي. You got فنعما هي, and then you got فنعما هي. Can you see the difference?
So one more time, please.
الصدقات sorry, استغفر. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي. Here, I've cut out the kasra. Next one. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي. Sorry. فنعما هي. The next one. فنعما هي. Can you hear the difference?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So that's called ikhtilas. So what I've done basically is I've cut the haraka short. Because in Hafs, we read it as ni'imma hi. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, that's what ikhtilas is. You're trying to get 30% of a haraka. Rome is ikhtilas, but with a soft stop. So it's not like saying nasta'in, cutting it short, nasta'in, and then you're softly stopping on it. You got nasta'in. So it's not just nasta'in. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yep.
So if I said nasta'inu, if I read it nasta'inu, like that, it's a hard cut, and that's ikhtilas. If I say nasta'inu, and then I'll make it softer, that's wrong. So to do ikhtilas softly, that's what wrong means.
فهمت. Jazakallahu khair.
No, jazakallah khair for asking that question, brother. So, like I said, I'm the one learning as well. So, alhamdulillah. Sorry, we'll carry on with Ishman.
Sorry, just hopefully a very quick one. When you were just na'mahi, when we're reading that on Hafs, how do we know that the ikhtilas is there and that we can choose which way to recite it?
Oh no, with Hafs you can't do ikhtilas. There is no
Gotcha.
ikhtilas in Hafs.
Yep.
So that's why it's, don't want to confuse you guys, but basically now that we've mentioned it, to understand the actual word of what raw means, if you understand ikhtilas is cutting the haraka short. Raum is cutting it short and making it soft. But اختلاس can be found in other قراءات, and here I gave the example of Shu'bah. Shu'bah has اختلاس. He's got two وجهين basically when it comes to word ni'mah, sorry. He either makes a scan of the letter or he cuts the haraka short. So, but yeah, that's a different qira'ah. But you can see it's the closest qira'ah to Hafs. But by understanding the foundations, you'll be not only would you master your qira'ah, but you'll be better equipped to learn qira'at later on in other ijazat.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, man.
Jazakallah khair.
Inshallah, nazidna, man. So yeah, just carry on ahead. Inshallah, we'll do Ishmam now.
Ishmam. Linguistically, it is derived from I made him smell the perfume, i.e., I caused the light scent of it to reach him. The applied definition, it is to circle the lips right after giving sukoon to the letter with a dhamma, the same shape as when pronouncing the dhamma without a sound, which a blind person cannot perceive.
Okay, now this is tricky. Now you read nasta'inu with a big kasra as if you're making wasl. You also read nasta'inu with a bit softer, so it's a soft end and it's a full ishma. So I'm cutting it short and I'm making it soft. So that's that's Rome, yeah?
Yep.
So the question that comes in now is how do you do ishmam? Now remember how you read almost Muhammad. How you actually read تأمنى على يوسف.
Yep.
Yeah, so just read it.
تأمنى على يوسف.
Yeah, so I'll show my lips specifically for this recitation. So you got you got ما لك لا تأمنى. This is what the lips, it has to happen immediately after the حكم here. So ما لك لا تأمنى على يوسف. That's in the middle of the word. Now, when you stop an ishmam, because it happens after the haraka, this is what it looks like. I'll read it with wasl and then I'll stop ishmam. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Here I pronounce the dhamma. This is how I do it with ishmam. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. You see what I've done there?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
That's basically it. So that's what it looks like when you stop on it. But obviously, if I carried on, my lips were already in the position of getting ready to pronounce it. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So that's basically waqf bil-ram. So that's the difference between ishmam and ishmam, sorry. Ram saves a portion of it. Ishmam only happens on dhamma, and it's when you stop on it, the ishmam becomes silent. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. To mark there's like let's just say a dhamma, or you're getting ready to say the dhamma. In the middle of the word, this is what it sounds like. ما لك لا تأمنى على يوسف. So here basically you're saying this letter شمت or كأنها شمت ريحة الضم, which basically means I'm smelling a wow coming out of it. Now, I don't know if you've done this basically, but obviously you've been on barbecues. The number one thing that happens on a barbecue when you cook food on it, especially if you're using charcoal or let's just say a cherry or whatever wood you're using when you smoke in a smokehouse, you'd be like, man, this barbecue is really good. It smells like wood or it smells like charcoal. But the thing is, have you seen the charcoal?
No.
So basically, in Arabic, as we say, بهذا الحرف إني أجد رائحة so and so. I find the smell of so and so in this letter. That is what ishmam is about. It's like as if you're smelling it. You'll find this in other qira'at. ومن, rather than saying ومن أصدق, you say ومن أصدق من الله قيلا. Here it's you're doing an ishmam but with a zay. The letter is a sad, but I'm adding, let's just say, a zay in the marinade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically you're marinating. So that's what ishmam means. It comes from the word shamma, or like smelling. So you're trying to achieve that by combine, if you've got a word with ishmam, you're combining it with the ishmam. It's more obvious in the middle of a word. But in the end, it just kind of disappears. Raum, on the other hand, it preserves part of that and carries it on to the next one. So it's kind of like a complete opposite. But the only difference is ishmam can only happen with dhamma. Raum happens with the other harakat. So I hope they explained it, inshallah.
Yes, alhamdulillah. Just a quick question, if we have the time, for the example here, ar-Rahim, if we're stopping on the meme and the lips are kind of going to be closed for the meme,
Yeah.
how would we pronounce that? We open them after we make the meme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you say, oh wait, you got ar-Rahman ar-Rahimi. It's a kasra, yeah?
The example he has here is one with
sorry, ar-Rahimu. Yeah.
yeah.
So in this case, yeah. So I can see it. So I was thinking of Surah Al-Fatiha for the other example. In this case, they say ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and you stick your lips out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the only difference in what you would hear is the harakah might be a little bit shorter, but you're not actually hearing anything from the ishmam of the lips.
Not necessarily shorter. I'll read it like this: ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So that's the difference. In Rome, it's shorter and softer. With ishmam, because you're stopping at it, it's harder to get it. Because usually if you have the air flowing through ishmam, you can hear it. Because my lips are already like this. All that needs to do, I'm supposed to do is pass air through it. That's how you can smell it.
Oh, I see.
Like when somebody's cooking and they've got an extractor fan, you'll smell something on the street.
Yeah.
If it's in a small apartment, there's no way you can smell it unless it's open.
Yeah.
So same thing. That's the example I gave you with like si'a. If you do ishmam, it's like si'a. Because I let the air through the lips, it changes it. You see what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah, understood. Jazakallah khair.
So that's why I mean in Hafs, most people, they're like, you know what, I don't want to stop with ishmam. I'll just stop normally because you're not going to hear much of a difference. But if you're reciting another qiraat, you've got where they have ishmam with sad or any other letters, like ta'manna, for example, then it's more obvious. That's what I believe. So Allah knows best, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Ajma'in, man. So hopefully that explains it. But yeah, the reason I'm turning the camera is that every single person I know, whether it's Hafs or even Sheikhs being Shatibiya, they're like, yep, this episode has to be done on camera. That's how difficult it is. So it's explaining it. So inshallah, we'll read this. We'll see how much we'll cover, inshallah. We'll take it out of Allah. And
the rule of
do let me know when you have to shoot off. Eh?
Yeah, no problems, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Bismillah.
The rule of ishmam is that of stopping with a sukoon. So one, accordingly, the presented sukoon is lengthened 2, 4, or 6 counts. And 2, the letter stopped upon with ishmam is treated as it is when it has a sukoon, regarding being heavy or light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you like the examples?
Well, yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah, so فَيَغْفِرُ, when it is heavy, فَيَغْفِر, this is stopping with a roam of right. فَيَغْفِر is
Sorry,
light.
which page are we?
218.
Oh, we're already on 218, sorry. So it's heavy. Oh, yeah. So here, it's basically saying when you join it becomes heavy. Yep, so read it again.
So when joining فَيَغْفِرُ, this is the ra is heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And then here فَيَغْفِر, when we're stopping with roam, it is light. فَيَغْفِر. فَيَغْفِر. And then when stopping with sukoon, it is light. فَيَغْفِر.
This is the trickiest one to do because you're trying to divorce. That's when understanding the sifa and the difference between the haraka, it gets really hard. So it's, mashallah, to be honest, with all due respect to the brother, I think he was from Morocco and we were doing our diploma course at that time, man. Mashallah, he was doing it for Hamza. He managed to get 5 different slots for Hamza, mashallah, in one ayah, just by applying this correctly. So I'm not going to be judging you hard on this. to be honest. It's a really hard thing to do, but at least you can tell the difference. It's like, this is what waqf and ishmam means. And obviously that's when you have to understand the difference between ishmam and rawm. Are you going to be preserving, how are you going to be preserving the sifa? What type of harakah should be letting out? If it's ishmam, then you don't let out the sound of ishmam, but the sifa has to be heavy. You see what I mean?
Subhanallah.
Oh, so, astaghfirullah, I was thinking of this situation. In this case, al-waqf bil-ishmam, because ishmam is closer to sukoon, I apologize. Because ishmam is closer to sukoon, you have to actually have a sifa of tarqiq, because the letter next to it is a fa. But obviously, because rawm naturally extends out, like we said, because of the ikhtilasi nature of rawm, in order to drag out that dhamma, in order to drag out, if I'm stopping with the rawm, to drag out the haraka or the sifa, I have to make the right light. So when you think about it, this is actually pretty crazy. Now, this is where it can get really complicated. And I'm really struggling with this as well, with all honesty, because with yaghfir, and obviously it's hard to kind of do ishmam and to transition from the ra. So it can sound very similar, but there's a slight difference. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because technically speaking, if it sounds like a sukoon, then it can be really hard. And I have to admit, out of everything else that I've taught, this is probably the hardest thing to kind of master. And I definitely need more practice to do with other qira'at doing it. So it's, for me personally, while I teach my students, especially if I'm going to do an ijaza or something, I'll just say, do a normal hafs waqf. Or do a wasl. So, but that's basically it. I mean, does that kind of answer that section?
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. This is definitely going to go down probably as the hardest video in this series, if I'm correct. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it would be if we couldn't get around it, but you've offered options to still understand it, to know what it is, but we don't actually really have to master it to be able to recite it properly, yeah.
Yeah, with this one, yeah, unless the Mujib specifically asks. But the good thing is that part of this course is if somebody says I need you, I haven't had that yet, to be honest, and I'm having, I've had anything from Hafs Masters or Asim Masters right down to Qira'at al-Kubra. At the end of the day, they unless they specifically ask, you don't do it. But if you're expected to explain it, you need to kind of explain the difference between waqf bil-rawm and waqf bil-ishmam at the end of the day. Because here, when you look at it, it's all sounds the same, but you need to demonstrate the difference. Like, as we said, if you're joining, you do a full dhamma. If you're doing a rawm, then obviously it's like it has a sukoon and it has to be light, and then you just extend it slightly. My limited understanding, but don't take my word for it, because I'm not a stopper, a master of this yet. And you got yaghfir bil-ishmam, and it has to be light. Yaghfir, and then you do the thing with the lips, and I think that's going to be a bit easier. So yeah, it's like I said in the Shatibiya, it says one of the hardest skills to master, and not all the Qur'an can do it. At the end of the day, it's just something, if you can pass your ijaza, then it's at least good to know. So, because you're only you can only be judged on what you can recite, right? So,
Brother
but
Ibrahim,
yeah, go ahead.
can I just, for my own revision, just looking back at the Rome, sorry, I'm taking you guys back again. So when we say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, so just the slight mu that will come out, it's going to be a bit,
Yes. Yeah. So you do ikhtilas, which means to cut it down by 30%, and then you do the rawm, which is to make it soft. So are they going Rahman Ar-Rahim? You say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and then you lower the voice. So you got Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. I've cut it short. Or I say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and then you see how I mean? It's a difference. Rather than cutting it short, like, you're crashing into it, as I'd like to call it, rather than crashing into a wall, you're actually doing a soft crash. It makes sense.
Yeah, because I just realized that, so it means all my life I've been reading it wrong. Just yeah. So
Oh no, it's all right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, what I don't. This is one thing I don't want you to do. Walking out of this lesson specifically, and I've had this happen to me when I was teaching people. Do not, and this happens a lot with people that actually come from a non-Arabic background. They'll say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Alamina, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Malik Yawm Ad-Din. And then I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm doing Waqf al-Ishmam. It's like, no, this is definitely not how you do it. Because you're just reading the last harakah.
Okay.
So you see, mashallah, you guys have covered like a few hundred pages with me already. And this is difficult for somebody now that's already trying to do the second ijazah for me to explain and actually execute. And I'm just getting people walking into the class saying, oh, yeah, I'm doing Waqf al-Ishmam. I'm like, good luck, because Imam al-Shatibi has said this is going to be one of the hardest things for people to do the Qur'an. So if knowing the difference is vital, but you're not going to get screwed on it. I think, in my personal humble opinion, you will definitely get seriously stopped over and quizzed if you're doing a Shatibiyya and a Qur'at al-Ashra. And I've actually witnessed this when I was doing it with another brother. He was definitely memorized the Shatibiyya, mashallah. He demonstrated it excellently and really well, but that's his level. He's a 7 Qur'at at the end of the day. So that's the least you'd expect from a master reciter, mashallah. I'd be lucky to get a few qira'at under my belt, but you can see it takes practice.
So as a common person, if someone says Malik Yawmiddin, he stops at that's it, that is still considered okayish, or is it still incorrect tajweed, basically?
Well, this is what happens. You have to say Bismillah, Malik Yawmiddin. If you say Malik Yawmiddin, that's incorrect, because now you've actually put a shadda on it.
Yeah.
And this is the hukum of Nabr, which we covered, I think, 30 or 40 pages ago. Am I correct, Musa?
Yeah.
So as you guys can see, mashallah, even stopping is being studied at ijazah level. How you stop matters. So it's like, it's not just about memorizing the sector or the 4 places or whatever. Like, this is actually a science, if anything else. The reason why I say it's a science is because, subhanAllah, I can't remember which sheikh said this. It was actually Mu'allama al-Hadith. He was basically trying to explain to people how we actually have it as a science. We're not making things up. He basically told them, look, this is a science. I'd like you to go to 5 other muhaddithin and tell you the way it made takhrij of his hadith. I want you to go back, talk with them, come back to me and tell them if they said anything different to what I said. That's exactly what a science is. That's why when you study in a Sharia qualified university, they'll have a degree in Islamic sciences. What does that mean? It means the qawa'id that you're being taught, the foundations, through 1st to 3rd year and 4th year, and you're making an ijtihad onwards. It means every university you go to, this is exactly how they're going to do it. So that's what we mean by science. When I'm teaching qira'at and the person has done ijazah, I don't expect everybody to teach this book because it's really technical. But out of everybody else, there's a minimum standard I'm expecting of them, which is stopping correctly. Because at the end of the day, they can choose to stop a drawm with ishmam or with wasl or whatever, but because they're a master qari, they should be able to deploy the tools that best suit their qira'ah. That's my judging criteria. So but at the end of the day, it's a science. That's the bottom underlying thing. Just turning up to a Quran competition and giving me, I don't know, whether it's you or your kids or whatever, and the guy's like, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. It's like, bro, you just destroyed it. You're not a scientist doesn't care how beautifully you articulate an argument to them, as long as gravity will always act down on your body in one direction constantly at 9.81 meters per second squared. That's what matters. You get what I mean? So just like how it works in real life science, this is how Tajweed science works. And subhanAllah, yes, we do have a science for stopping as well. Just like how you do with physics, if you've done 6th form physics or if you've done it in university, same thing applies for qira'at. So, yeah.
Is it correct to say, Ustad, maybe it might help us out, to finish on the sukoon, like nasta'een, that is completely okay in the qira'ah and how to recite, but some people may choose to use ishmam or rom instead of the sukoon at the end, and then they must, is that what you're talking about?
Well, the thing is, it is an option. This is where your experience as a teacher and muqra comes into play. Is like, it is an option to kind of like speak in, say, Old English and people can understand you. I cannot do this right now. But are most people going to use the shortest path in pronunciation? Most likely, yes. So it's like, there's just like how you speak to people normally, there's a normal way of explaining things. But at the end of the day, linguistically, you've got different options. You can say, this is exquisite. Or you can say, man, this is awesome. One's going to sound a lot more different and harder to say linguistically, from a linguistic cultural sense, than the other option. Same thing now we're talking about the language of the Arabs. When I taught you the pillars of Qur'at, the language of the Arabs is part of that. And a lot of people do what normal Arabs do, which is just stop with the sukoon. I'm fine with that. That's why the Arab of me is fine with that. The muqra in me is happy with that. So I've got nothing wrong with it. You're going for the least path of resistance, and there is nothing wrong with it. The only problem that we have, you and all of you guys have, is the people that are actually slaughtering it. They can't say the harakat correctly. They'll say, rather than saying an'amta with a sukoon, they'll say an'amta. Somebody like that should not and shouldn't even entertain the thought of even stopping with a sukoon or rom or ishmam, because they can't even get the basics right. You get what I mean?
Yep. Sister Mavish has a
Yeah.
question. Sister Mavish
Yeah.
has a question. You can see that. Or you want me to read it?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Do you want to read the page?
No. Sister Mavish has a question that, or teacher, is this followed only when some specific type of qiraat is being recited?
That's actually a really good question. So here, yeah, alhamdulillah, that's a good question. Jazakallah, I just saw it now. So basically, to cut a long story short, it's I'll tell you why people don't use stopping with rawm and ishmam. It requires two things. You have to be master of Arabic. That's number one. I mean a master of Arabic, and not all Arabs are masters of Arabic, because you need to know, because like we said, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. It's actually فيه, but you need to know that in advance. هدى للمتقين. You know, you need to know every single haraka in its original form and its stopping form. And then you'll need to execute 30% of that, or not at all, depending on the hukum. Because what happens, remember what we said? If you say, you can't say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. First of all, that's incorrect with the Tajweed. Second of all, why did you stop 2 harakat here and recite 6 there? You get where I'm coming from?
Yep.
So you can't pick and choose what you start with. So the thing is, if you start deploying warawm and ishmam, you're basically telling me that, yes, I know the Quran off by heart. I know every single harakah for every single stop there is, and I'm going to read 30% of the harakah when I stop with rawm, and I'll do it softly. And then with ishmam, I'm going to completely get that shamma dam correctly. And I'm going to make sure I do this for every single dhamma fatha kasra that I stop at. If you can do that, by all means do it. I'm not going to stop you. But the problem is, how could you do this if you haven't even, and I'm being brutally honest, I've memorized the Quran that I'm reciting. I'm telling you this now as somebody that is reciting to another hafiz in a few hours right now. It's like, how many people now are at the level where they've memorized the whole of the Quran, where they don't make a single mistake, can pronounce 100% without making any mistake in Tajweed, and stop correctly? Because they know the harakat and the waqf as well. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
You know.
SubhanAllah.
So that's why, like, at the end of the day, it's like I said, this is hard to execute for somebody and some people that have already done ijazat. This is not what I'm telling you. This is Sheikh Imam al-Shatibi, who is in all of our isnad. That's actually, basically, when you're talking about any ijaza in isnad, you've got Imam Shatibi and Imam Jazari, hands down. Apart from the Sahaba that they took it from, they've mastered the art. If these guys are saying this is a really hard thing, you better really show me that you've got it. And if somebody, and this is how I see it, let me make this really clear right now. If you came up to me and you recited the Quran off by heart without a single mistake, and you're making one mistake per 20 pages in your ijaza, which is acceptable, by the way. One mistake means I correct you on once. Let's just say I correct you 5 times in 100 pages. That's pretty good, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I'll say that that's still not good enough to stop an Rama and Ishma. Or you may be able to understand the concept. Unless, like I said, the brother that I heard him recite this at the halaqah that I witnessed, mashallah, was already at the level of Shatibiyyah. When I say Shatibiyyah, I mean this guy has memorized Tuhfat al-Atfal. He's memorized al-Jazariyah. He knows how to explain them. So that's, let's just say, 176 lines of poetry. He knows how to explain the ahkam. He's an experienced teacher. He's memorized another 1,000 lines of Shatibiyyah, which is a really big poem. And he can recite the multiple recitations, at least 10. And he knows the different variations, Tayyibat and Nashr and so and so. So, yeah, if you can do that, then maybe you can attempt it, because you can confidently stop at it. And mashallah, the guy was tested. I saw this by Ashra Qira'at graduate testing another guy with a Sab'iyya, the 7th Qira'at. He said, can you please give me all the stops? And he said, based on the poem, this is the line of poem I'm reciting to you, this is the evidence, and this is the 5 stops that are done by the Sheikh. And mashallah, he was impressed, and I was impressed as well. So, yeah, by all means, you're free to choose whatever you can, but tread lightly. Because like I said, even I'm doing like one of the recitations being tested now, Shu'bah. Shu'bah is very simple. But even getting ikhtilas correctly is really difficult, because you have to time your harakat and stop them. And ikhtilas on its own is difficult. Imagine rawm and ikhtilas, and you're mixing these things together. It can really wear you out, because at the end of the day, to get a full ijaza, you have to memorize them as well, which is difficult. So yeah, I'll be really careful, because at the end of the day, the most common mistake to do, and I'm being brutally honest right now, if you ever stop to me and you make this harakah and you do iskan, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin, that is 100% fail, because you're picking and choosing. Oh no, sorry, I meant harakah. This doesn't work that way. You see what I mean? Because what's going to happen, and this is what I'm going to do personally. If you're saying to me, I'm stopping in Ram and Ishmam, and you're not using Ram and Ishmam, I have the full right to test you to see if you know the difference between Ram and Ishmam. You get what I mean?
Yep.
Because let's be honest, we're going to close this discussion. I'm going to ask you in 6 weeks' time what's the difference between Ram and Ishmam, and we're going to panic. You get what I'm coming from?
Definitely.
Because, it's like, let's be honest. If Imam Shatibi said this, and he said this, mashallah, in 500 Hijri, there's a reason why a lot of people 1,000 years later are saying, yeah, he's correct, So by all means, yes, this is the explanation of Ram and Ishmam. Do sit down, do practice it. But if you choose to I do apologize for going over time on this, but if you choose to choose Ram and Ishmam in your qira'ah, you're going to have to carry it with you all the way. And from my personal experience, I find it hard enough for people to, when they recite Quran, especially Amma, let's just say Juzu Amma, for example, just getting somebody that can read that fast, that knows that in the harakah of each word as it is difficult. Because not only do you need to remember the harakat, you need to not make a mistake. And that's wasl. Stopping is really advanced. So you have to be really careful. So by all means, I'm more than happy for somebody, inshallah, tomorrow, if you guys want to practice, just tell me, yeah, I'm going to be using what Ram or Ishmam. I'm going to be stopping using this. I'm going to go, okay. And if you're not sweating by half a page, I'll say, okay, mashallah, you're built for Shatibiya. Go ahead, mate. I'm not going to stop you because you're got potential to be better than me. I'm not trying to put you off, but there are people that are going to be better than I am. But if you're just going to turn up and butcher it, there's no point, right? So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Mehush. Any more questions so far?
Yes, teacher, Jazakumullah khairan kaseera. Teacher, there is an example which is being given for Ishmael from the ayah of Surah Yusuf normally, and it was being
Yes.
said by some of the scholar. I was listening that this is the only place where the real Ishmael takes place, but you are talking about the Waqf bil Ishmael. So I have heard some of the lectures where there are different type of explanation. So can you please explain that if there is Dhamma at the end? Maybe someone asked already, but I joined maybe late. I apologize for that. But if there is Dhamma at the end, like you gave the example from Surah Al-Fatiha. So why I'm sorry if I'm repeating the same question, but why we should not complete this Dhamma, and we should cut it short by 30%, and why this will be considered as a waqf? And I was listening from some of the scholar that we actually follow this type of work when we follow some specific recitation style. So that's why I asked this question. But Alhamdulillah, you cleared that we can follow this with other recitation style as well, but it's optional. So can you please clear this as I asked this question about Dhamma and why we have to cut it by 30%? Jazakallahu khairan kaseera.
Ajmain. First of all, I'd like to do what my sheikh says now. I'm just going to ask everybody to gently do salawat. It's going to be heavy. Muhammad, repeat after me.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Right. Bismillah. So, okay. This is actually a good question that Sister Mehruz has asked, and with regards to what qualifies as a scholar right now, which is actually a good point. So if true Ishmam was to occur, this is my humble understanding. And this is basically, I'm saying somebody that's done Qur'at other than Hafs. I've only have usul of Khalaf that I did under Sheikh Ibrahim al-Ghazza. I'm currently doing, obviously, Qur'at Asim of Sheikh Muhammad. So I'm looking at it in my background. Obviously, because I'm Arab, I can read the Shatibi. Now, when you type Ishmam in Arabic, if you search Ishmam on Arabic, the most common thing you'll see on YouTube search algorithm is this happening. And that's why every single person, even the guy that had hundreds of slides teaching the Shatibiya, he said, for this video, I have to show my lips. Because at the end of the day, Ishmam happens outside of Hafs. So it only happens in one place in Hafs. If the person said this is the true Ishmam, well, I'm not saying there's a false Ishmam. Ishmam is Ishmam. At the end of the day. It's like Shamma something, he smelled something. It means, when you walk into the house, before you walk into the house, you can smell the cooking. Oh, this guy's cooking meat, he's cooking something. So to sham something, you mix it. If Ishmam only happens, and this is the question I'd like to ask, and I'm open the floor to everybody else. If somebody said true Ishmam only occurs when I say مَا لَكَ لَا تَأْمَنَّ عَلَى يُوسُف, you can type in, it's like at the end of the day, what's going to happen when they're reading إِهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ إِذَا الصِّرَاطَ, or وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا, وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا. That's Ishmam. But it's Ishmam done in different letters. Just like how I have Ishmam al-Dhamma, I can have Ishmam al-Zai, I can have, So that's what ishmam means as a concept. So obviously, I'm going to assume the best now, brother. My understanding is that even, and I'm telling you this right now, and that's why I don't even tell you to even call me a qari or a muqri. Even if I got 3 ijazat and hafs, meaning I have 3 isnads going to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that doesn't qualify me to be a scholar. The highest I could ever be called is a muqri, which means it's somebody that can train a qari. To be a scholar, God forbid, means I'm doing this full-time, day in, day out. I have a PhD in qira'at, and I've already memorized all the books, textbooks. It's a really big thing. Ishmam happens outside of the word ta'manna. It can happen inside the middle of the word, as I gave you. And I said to Brother Musa at the beginning of the video, it's easier to see in the middle of the word. Just like ما لك لا تأمنى على يوسف. I don't say تأمنى على يوسف. See my lips? I don't say تأمنى. I say تأمنى. You see how it's giving it a little bit of a waw? I mean, I don't know. You guys can hear the difference?
Maybe a little.
Yeah. So ما لك لا تأمنى. ما لك لا تأمنى على يوسف. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I can hear it. Yep.
Because I'm trying to demonstrate it actually means that manuna. That's the root, the actual full word. So I'm filling in for that. When I stop on it, اهدنا الصراط إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Because I don't have the air flowing, I can't hear it. That's why it looks like this, but it doesn't sound, because the air is already stopped. But if I'm reading another style, and this is outside the scope of your qira'at, wasi'a. If I'm saying it with ishmam, it'll be wasi'a, shi'a. You see the difference? So
Allah
now
Akbar.
I've read with ishmam, and it's in the middle of the word. But because once the air stops, because as we said, you have to stop with a sukoon. Regardless of what qira'ah you're doing, it has to be a sukoon. So that's why when I read nasta'inu, I don't say nasta'inu, I say nasta'inu. So if I stop with Rome means I cut the haraka short. Rome is different to ikhtilas, as we said in class. Ikhtilas means nasta'inu. I'm crashing into it. I'm reading 30% of the haraka. Rome specifically means 30% and make it softer. So if anybody is coming to you, and this is what I'm saying to people, and this is why it pays and makes sense to listen to the right authorities. If somebody is saying, reading with a full dhamma, fatha, dhamma, kasra, and saying this is Ram or Ishmam, not only does it violate the rules of Tajweed, it violates the rules of Arabic. So I'm asking him now, as an Arab, please explain to me why this means Ram. Because Ram in Arabic means to cut it short and to say it softly. I just came off from Al-Ma'ani right now. I typed on an Arabic keyboard. What does the word Ram mean? And the Arabic dictionary says to stop, to cut it short and to make it softer. So if somebody say nasta'inu is Ram, it doesn't make sense. You see what I mean? It's like me driving a Cadillac and saying this is a truck. You get what I mean? Alhamdulillah. It's for only some specific types of qira'at. Oh, no. So with regards to specific qira'at, like I said, other qira'at, they'll have the Ram, or sorry, the Ishmam more in their words. For Hafs, when the Sheikh said to you, ما لك لا تأمنى is correct, or this is the only true qira'ah, my limited understanding is they're only talking about Hafs. So I'm going to give them that credit. Because in Hafs, we only have one word that has Ishmam in it. Oh, it's all right. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like it has only one word in it that has Ishmam. But other qira'at, they've got other Ishmam. But when it comes to stopping, all of them have the same usul. You see what I mean? Because they have like fatha, dhamma, you've got qalqala, you've got ikhfa, idgham, all these rules. Waqf, baram, wal ishmam applies to other qira'at. What they do ishmam with is different, however. One might do ishmam with dhamma, might do ishmam with zay. It's different. That's a different qira'at. I hope that explained that. Man, I really took it out of you guys today. All good. So any more questions? I think hopefully that should be us for today. Alhamdulillah, that's perfect. So inshallah, I think brother Asrar is gone off at the moment, so he's going to help us out. He's going to help us with regards to finishing the recording. Brother Musa's gone. Jazakallah khair for this question. Like I said, mashallah, what you asked is a really valid question. Imam al-Shatibi, just to recap, like I said, it's good to know what is waqf with ishmam, what is waqf with rawm, how they sound differently. All you need to do when you're demonstrating to your qari is you know the difference between rawm and ishmam. You don't have to stop with rawm and ishmam as long as you stop correctly. But subhanAllah, as Imam Shatibi said, this is how you can tell who is a master muqri or qari from an amateur. Because he said even the best people find it difficult to say. So if the best people find it difficult to execute correctly, the people that don't know what they're going to talk about, they're going to be pretty obvious. That's my personal belief. So it's I tell people just take it really easy. If for any reason you're reciting to the sheikh and you have a different tariqah that is easier to recite, or a different method that you are happy with, and your sheikh is happy with, and they're confident with your recitation, I say go with it. You know, don't try to do the hardest thing. You know, try to work progressively towards it. And I'm being brutally honest, I'm not the best teacher when it comes to rawm and ishmam, but as you can see, it requires a high level of not just Tajweed, but Arabic as well. So inshallah, I hope that explains it for everybody. Inshallah, I'll see all of you guys, inshallah, tomorrow. I think we'll cover that, you know, in person and one-to-one. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me on a one-on-one basis. I'm more than happy to help you practice rawm, ishmam, see what's options better for you. And yeah, don't stress if you can't do all of it. Like I said, this is a teacher's guide. Take it step by step. That's the best way to learn it. This is the hardest section. This is definitely the hardest video I've taught yet. But trust me, inshallah, the next one is going to be easier. I believe we've got probably 2 sessions left after this. So inshallah, we'll do Hamzat al-Wasl for the next one after rawm and ishmam. And we're going to have a final session. So we'll be in touch in the group, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for really good questions. If there is nothing else to ask, then inshallah leave it there. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.